You're listening to the Team Stripes Podcast.
Hey, everybody. This is episode 67 of the Team Stripes Podcast, joined, as usual, by Mr. Brenden Est. I'm Ross Grimaldi. What's going on, dude?
If we're being honest, still trying to recover from the very long Labor Day weekend we just had. Just trying to catch up on sleep and all that before this coming up weekend of even more skating with our high schooling leveling tournament. So just trying to catch up here.
Oh, man. So you got another busy weekend this weekend. Luckily, I have no hockey this weekend, which I'm pretty excited about. I ended up doing 15 youth games and a full USPHL scrimmage with our team here in Tampa. So busy weekend.
Yeah, thankfully for my Labor Day, I think I ended up skating. I had 14 games from Friday to Monday. But this coming up weekend, I think I got 11 in 2 days. So that'll be fun.
Geez. 4-man at least, I hope.
The high school ones are, we got a bunch of 4-man. And it's a weird format. They're doing 11-minute periods, no overtime, nothing. So you play your 11-minute periods and you get to go home. So
that's not bad.
Yeah, at least we'll stay on time and whatnot, but that's just a lot of hockey.
Yeah, it was interesting for us. We had a half-hour break between each game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ended up using the 4-sheet rink in Wesley Chapel and the 2-sheet rink down in Brenden. So we had 6 sheets of ice for this tournament. We had 75 teams. It was only teams from Florida.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild.
We were all over the DFW area. I think there's 12 sheets of ice that we used. If not,
okay, so all the Dr. Pepper centers.
Yeah, I think there's 6 of them. There might be more. I lost count. But yeah, we also had the 30 minutes in between games, which was really weird for a Labor Day weekend, not starting 15 minutes early every game.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was kind of nice because you got to,
get a nice little break.
Yeah, take your skates off, change your socks, have a snack.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice.
Yep.
But I think on bigger and brighter notes, the NHL is in the Western Conference Finals.
Well, just the conference finals in general.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the East is there too. They are both held in Edmonton now. So all 4 teams are in the Edmonton bubble. Toronto is done. I mean, the city of Toronto. I don't think there's really any major surprises with the 4 teams that are in the conference finals. Now, coming off of last week when 4 out of the 4 series in the second round was 3-1, we all said for the most part they were going to be wrapped up in either Game 5 or Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
Only series that was wrapped up in Game 5 was Tampa and Boston, who won in, I believe, double overtime that game.
Yeah, I believe so.
And
then,
it
was double overtime.
Yeah, and then all the other series, so Stars, Avs, Vegas, Vancouver, and Islanders, Philly, all teams were able to force a Game 7, which to me is awesome. I mean, you can't get more exciting than a Game 7.
Nope.
No, I mean, I think, so every team that had a 3-1 lead ended up winning. Some teams just took longer. And now I believe, Vegas and Stars have played 2 games. Their series is tied 1-1 in the West Conference. And then tonight, Wednesday, Tampa plays the Islanders.
Yep. We'll see what Islander team shows up because they were not there on Monday night.
Yeah, you could tell Tampa had a 4-day off.
Yeah, it was definitely obvious that the Islanders had just played a Game 7 and then traveled and then had to get on the ice for a Game 1 with no energy at all, no nothing. The Lightning were just dominant, I guess is the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, wasn't it, 8-2 or something?
Yeah, it was 8-2.
The Stars in Vegas, though, I mean, both of those games were 1-0 to the Stars in the first game, and then I believe it was 2-0 Vegas in the second.
3-0.
3-0.
Got 2 shutouts, competitive games.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun series regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that we do have to talk about from the second round was the Phillies Islanders series. I don't know what game it was, but it was Carter Hart went behind his net in overtime to try and knock down a puck. He ended up catching it in his glove, tried to get back into his crease. The referee blew the whistle. By the rule book, it is a delay of game penalty, but you could tell the refs did not give him a penalty. They gave him not even a stern talking to. They just kind of a warning. And, play went on. I just wanted to get your thoughts about that one.
It's one of those things like it was overtime, right?
Yes.
You're not gonna call a penalty there. You're just gonna be like, yo, dude, don't do that again. You don't want to call that penalty in overtime.
And I think the odds of that ever happening again are slim to none because,
yeah,
you see it all the times. Like, goalie comes out, and I guess he didn't expect it to be as high as it was, and his glove was out there.
Yeah, it's just kind of a one-off situation. It's just like, hey, dude, just so you know that is a penalty. I'm not going to call it this time, but if you do it again, we're going to have to. And then you're also kind of hoping that the other bench doesn't call you out that it is a penalty. Because, if they don't know, no big deal,
Nobody has to know. Yeah,
exactly.
I think Islanders fans were pretty chapped about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think I would ever call that, especially in overtime. I believe it was game 6. So
yeah, like I said, that's just a situation where you're going to say to a goalkeeper, like, hey, dude, don't do that again.
Help me help you.
We kind of let the goaltenders get away with a little extra,
I agree. We also had a suspension in round 2. Mr. Ryan Reeves of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Do you see my surprised face?
Yeah. It was a 1-game suspension. I don't think it was – it's a cookie-cutter suspension.
Sorry, it should have been more, but it's the playoffs. If that's regular season, that's 3 to 5 games. He straight up targeted the guy's head. There's no excuse for that today. There just isn't. They called a match penalty on the ice right away. No questions asked. See you later. It's playoffs, so that's why it was only 1 game. I feel like it should have been more. These guys aren't going to stop doing this crap until there's, hey, you target a guy's head. We're going, minimum. Let's go 3, 5, 7 games for targeting. It's ridiculous. He had no business making that hit.
I agree. I agree with the suspension. I think it should go 3 games easy. I think you would see 3 games easy in the regular season. Obviously, the playoffs suspensions are handled a little bit differently. I'm not sitting in the war room up in Toronto with Shanahan and Department of Safety.
He doesn't even do it anymore. It's George Peros.
Oh, yes, it's Peros now. Yeah, that hit shouldn't happen in the first place. The penalty on the ice was a correct call, a match penalty. NHL handled the suspension. I think that's – as a referee, I'm looking at the suspension. I'm saying, should it be 3 games? Yes. But I'm a referee. I can only call the penalty on the ice. I don't get to say what the suspension is. He served it in game 1. He was back last night in game 2 for Vegas, and he wasn't missing a beat at all.
No. It just – I don't know.
As usual.
But hey, who am I to say it should be more?
Yeah, we're not the ones sitting in the room in the department.
No, we're not. I just feel like you do something like that, you need to sit for a while.
I agree. Now,
speaking of referees and linesmen, we'll real quick name the guys that are working the conference finals.
Let's do it.
All right, so we got our referees: Francis Sharon, Gord Dwyer, Jean Hebert, Steve Kozari, Wes McCauley, Dan O'Rourke, Chris Rooney, and Kelly Sutherland. Our linesmen are Derek Amell, Steve Barton, Scott Cherry, Greg Dvorsky, Brad Kovacic, Matt McPherson, Keel Murchison, and Johnny Murray. No real surprises other than, I think on the referee side, Seeing Sharon make it over maybe Chris Lee or Brad Meyer. And then on the linesman side, the biggest shock to me was Pierre Asco being out. But Pierre's done so many Stanley Cup finals. I wouldn't be surprised if, he was just like, hey, I want to go home. So, but at the same time, obviously, it's all performance-based and whatever, and you want to work as many rounds as you want, or you can. So who knows? But, yeah, definitely surprised that Pierre isn't in the third round. That was the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any issues with any of the officiating.
No, there hasn't been.
There never is.
I mean, sometimes there's some issues like controversy and stuff, but let's be honest, like these guys are the best at what they do. So.
Yeah. If you do want to think a guy's doing bad, just go on any of the team's social media and just look into the comments. I mean, I was scrolling through last night and living in Dallas, like I follow the Stars on Facebook and whatever. And every once in a while, I'll click on the comments just to see what the fans are saying. And the Stars ran into some penalty trouble in Game 2. And if you ask all the Stars fans, they were guilty of nothing. And the penalties were, as a few of the comments saw, the NHL was rigged against the Stars because they want Vegas to win, which just makes me laugh every time. Mm-hmm. Because I think as officials, it's safe to say we don't care who wins ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never once gone into a game and cared. But, it's just – it is what it is. It's funny. It's funny to me to read at least. But I think we have to get into our wacky rule question of the week.
Ooh, and you haven't even told me what it is yet, so I'm excited.
I found a
I think
really good one.
You know what? You need to just keep me in the dark. I don't want to know.
Okay.
So you just announce it.
We had this come up in a conversation earlier this week with a group of our officials down here in Dallas, and it is a goalie punching a guy with a blocker. And what is the penalty we assess? So the rule book that I want to find that rule in is the IHF rule book. And it's simply just the goaltender punches the guy in the blocker, what penalty do we assess? And look in the IHF rule book. I promise you it's in there. I have it pulled up on my laptop right now, so I promise you can find it.
Okay. I think I have an idea of what it is, but
yeah, I thought so too. I looked it up. My thought was correct, which is awesome. The first person, obviously, to send in the correct answer from the correct rule book with the rule reference and all that will get a Acme Thunder whistle. I believe it's the black one. I believe it will be engraved with the Team Stripes logo. Acme Thunder are great whistles. They're my favorite whistle. The only whistle I personally use. So
yeah.
I don't think there's any other whistle that compares. Now, we have a great interview on tap for today, and we haven't brought that up yet. So, Ross, can you bring up who we're interviewing this week?
Yeah, sure. So our interview this week is the State Supervisor of Florida, Chris Marriner. He has been around for a while. He refereed me while I was playing, which I believe he's got a nice story about me that he told to Brenden. And then, he's been our state supervisor for a while now. We go into what it's like to be a state supervisor, what he does. And then he also has another role where he's an off-ice official with the Tampa Bay Lightning in the National Hockey League. So we kind of go into what the rules of an off-ice official are during an NHL game. So with that, we'll send it on over to our interview with Chris Marriner. Supervisor of Florida, Mr. Chris Marriner. He's a guy that I've known for a very long time. He refereed me when I used to play. And he's been a great mentor and just a great influence on my career with officiating. So, Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Great, thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So, Chris, I guess we'll kind of just jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself as far as hockey goes, like when you started playing, when you transitioned to be a referee. So
Sure.
I guess that's where we'll start.
Well, I started skating when I was pretty little. Grew up in Maine, and had the fortune of having this big concrete slab out in the front of the house that they were going to put a garage on at some point. But every fall we'd go out and line it with 4x4s and visqueen and just let Mother Nature do her thing, and we'd have ice. It didn't help my skating all that much because it was a really small surface.
Fair enough.
So I started skating when I was pretty little and wanted to learn how to play hockey. And, I think I started playing when I was like 8, fairly typical. But played some defense, played wing. And then when I got into high school, we had a situation where our junior varsity goalie got booted out of school.
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah. And I was like, well, you know what? I've always played street hockey goalie. That sounds like that'd be a lot of fun. And so, my parents were like, all right, if this is something you want to do, and they realized the cost involved,
Mm-hmm.
I think right out of the gate. And they said, all right, well, let's see if we can find you some used equipment. So that way we don't go all in and buy a bunch of new gear that,
Yep.
you find out you don't like it. And so we found my first full and complete set of goalie gear for $125.
Wow.
The skates were, oh God, and this is going to make me sound even older than I really am, but the skates actually had a leather cowling all the way around the skate.
Oh my goodness.
They probably weighed about 6 pounds each. I mean, it was like anything was an exercise with leg weights. So that was the first thing we upgraded was the skates.
Yeah, for sure.
But, and then that was, I played through high school, went to Keene State College up in New Hampshire, and showed up on campus and was like, hey, where's the hockey coach? And found out they'd sunset the hockey program because of Title IX and had to back up some things, with equality. I'm like, okay, well, that'll be interesting. That would have been nice to know.
Mm-hmm.
But then they started a junior C team that same season. And so I played a couple of years of junior C, and then we started up a college club team, and I played a couple of years of a college club up there as well. Moved to Florida, driving through Orlando, found a place called Rock on Ice.
Oh my goodness!
Or as we affectionately called it, Rocks in the Ice. But
Yep.
I guess I can disparage them since I don't think they're in business anymore. So.
No, it was on iDrive too. That was the best part of it.
Well, and that was it. I was just exploring Orlando to see where I wanted to live, and I see Canada Drive, and I'm like, Canada Drive, that sounds kind of cool. So I drove up, and there it was.
That's hilarious.
And so
That's
I started
even
playing.
in the days before RDV, right?
Oh yeah, very much so. Because RDV was built in, I want to say like 97 or 98.
Okay.
Somewhere in that range. And so I started playing some pickup hockey, and then we started playing in a little bit of a league down there. And that's where I started to get into officiating. Well, actually, let me back up. When I was in college, the rink owner asked, "Hey, you want to make some money?" And I'm like, well, what do you have in mind? And he said, no, we need referees, pay $18 a game. And, they were an hour a piece. And for a college kid, I said, oh, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
There was no certification. There was no, it was very informal.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And it was, $18 to $20 a game, cash money at the end of the night. So
Perfect.
For a college kid looking for, adult beverage money, that went a long way.
Well, I think that's one of those things we all get into refereeing for at when we're first starting out, just to make a couple bucks. I mean, I know that's why I started.
Yeah, it's funny because it is probably one of the hardest, but one of the best legal part-time jobs that you can have with regards to pay. I mean, if you look at it, $38 for going to work an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep.
That's not a bad part-time gig. Better than flipping burgers.
Ain't that the truth?
So, I started playing some adult league, and I was horrified by what I saw on the ice from an officiating standpoint. And I went, all right, I can do better than that. And that's what got me into it. And, 26 years later, still keeping at it.
Still plugging away, and now you're the state supervisor of Florida.
Yeah. That and $4 will get me a cup of coffee somewhere.
Well, how did it go about you becoming our state supervisor?
I like to joke around with people and tell them that I lost a bet, but really, I'm still not entirely sure. Basically, it was one of those things that, at the time, Rich Joya was our state supervisor, and he announced he was going to be stepping down to help out with more district-related stuff and the district camp. And they were looking for volunteers, and I was one of, I think, probably 4 or 5 volunteers that said, yeah, I'd be interested in that. Tell me more about it. Mm-hmm. And, I talked with Dewey and Jack and John Maselli and the whole upper leadership crew in the district to find out more about what was involved. And apparently they liked my questions. They liked what I had to say, and they ended up picking me for the role. And awesome. And I got to say, there were some very qualified other people that were in the running as well. Okay. So I am, that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know how I got here. Yeah. Just because of some of the qualifications of the other people.
Gotcha.
Really quickly, what goes into the role of being a state supervisor? I mean, I obviously every state has one. Taha has one we have Steve Henderson as ours.
Yep.
Nobody really knows what state supervisors do. Could you go into detail about that?
Well, it's kind of like on the job description where it goes other duties as assigned. There are some key things that we do. We make sure that USA Hockey seminars are being conducted, that we have enough of them going on to meet the demand of the officials who want to register. And this year is really interesting because, registration has been down so far. So the question is, all right, how many seminars are we going to need? And so what we've done here in Florida is we posted 9 of them right out of the gate and said, okay, once these 9 are filled, we'll add more. Now, are we going to leave anybody out there hanging? No. But, we don't want November 28th to come around and have, 500 people going, hey, we need a seminar, because that's just not going to work out for anybody. No. So we're trying to encourage people to get out and register early and get their seminar done with, because hockey will come back. Now, whether it's, before Christmas or whether they put stuff off and they do more of a spring league kind of thing, hockey will come back. And if you haven't re-registered and haven't done your seminar, November 30th, you're done. So, that's why I'm encouraging people to get it done, because it will come back in some point. So the seminars is one part of it. I try to make it to as many as I can. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the state supervisor role, but I think as much as anything, I think it's kind of a PR gig, where you got to be out there. People got to know your face. They got to know who you are. They got to know what you expect for standards out on the ice. And, regardless of what the officials who officiate my Tuesday and Sunday night leagues would say about me, I don't expect perfection. I just expect a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, I think having that mentality and sharing that with people at the seminars, I think kind of helps them get a better understanding of where we want to take this. We've done a great job here in Florida of building the officiating program. And it's not just me. I've got a team of people behind me, assistant state supervisors and local area coordinators. We've got 600 registered officials, or at least we did last year, in the state of Florida. I can't manage
That's wild.
myself. Yeah. And when I first started, I think we were just about 4, maybe.
Okay.
Might have been in the high 3s.
Yeah.
So
heck, here in Tampa alone, we have 120-ish.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
So it's definitely crazy how much it's exploded and how many people we have.
Yeah, and so a couple other things the state supervisor does. We get involved with end of the year tournament selections. Making sure that we've got the right officials out on the ice for those. We also take we get to recommend people to go to districts and nationals. And if we have a districts or nationals here in the state, which I don't think we will this year, but we've got some great facilities that that really ought to put in for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we would I'd probably get to go work or help supervise a few of those things as well. Also supervise the state tournaments for high school and AA, and try and just kind of keep the ball rolling nice and smooth. And the last couple of years, we've gotten some really nice compliments about the officiating, and that not to sound too corny, but that makes my heart full.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and there's a lot of hard work that people put down on the ice, and it's nice to see a little bit of that get recognized.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely built a solid core group of guys as far as the officiating talent goes in the state. I'd be willing to put up most of our, actually that whole group against anybody, as far as skill and rule knowledge and all that kind of stuff goes. That's for sure. And
yeah,
you've been a big part of that, because I know it's nice that everybody does have your face out there. Like most of the officials know who you are, and it's nice that you're as involved as you are, because it certainly helps having the leadership between you and the rest of the state staff involved.
Yeah, well, and that's, like I said, I can't do it all by myself. So I've been really lucky. I've had some really good state and local people to help me out, because there'll be stuff that come in, and one of the other things that I do is I also am the liaison between the officiating world and the affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
So when the affiliate gets a complaint, when USA Hockey gets a complaint, those come to me.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times it's complaints based on judgment, and it's like, I don't know, I wasn't there, I didn't see it. It's really hard for me to comment on.
Yeah.
But with Live Barn, Live Barn's kind of a game changer. Mm-hmm. Because they don't send me a full video of the entire game. They can pull a 30-second clip. Now, the 30-second clip, that doesn't do a lot with regards to, telling you the temperature of the game, how the game's been going up until that point. It just shows you what happened on the ice.
Yeah.
And, but still, it's a whole lot better than nothing.
It's definitely been a great tool with all the rinks that have instituted using it. I guess coming up with, just that's kind of a good segue to what my next question was going to be. Like, what's been some of the biggest challenges you've had as being the state supervisor, or a state supervisor, I should say?
That's a really good question. And I try not to look at anything as a challenge or as an obstacle, but as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that may be part of what's helped me be successful, is that optimism. because I try not to get frustrated, and it's hard. I know USA Hockey's systems are not optimal when it comes to, registering and modules and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But, it's a whole lot better than it used to be, having to fill out a paper application and mailing a check in.
I can only imagine. I know, I think as long as I've been officiating, it's always mostly been online, but I'm sure obviously now it's definitely a lot easier. Minus the hours and hours of endless modules that we have to do online.
So go to the symposium, get tenured, and then the modules drop down.
We were supposed to go, and then obviously that got canned till next year.
That's all right. I'm definitely looking forward to getting out of the house and going to Providence next year.
Yes, it's going to be a good time.
But I do think, hold on, I was going to say, I do think for anybody that's listening, if you have an interest in going to the Advanced Officiating Symposium, with the situation on level 4s being no skating test, I have a feeling a lot of people are going to try and get locked in at level 4. So when the symposium opens registration, register quickly. That would be my word of advice.
That's why I didn't pull my money out of it for next year.
Me either.
I was just like, yeah, you guys can keep my money, so that way I'm guaranteed a spot.
Yep, that's what I did too. So,
what were you gonna say, Brenden?
Yeah, going away from reffing, I want to hear about playing Junior C, also known as Jungle C. What was that like?
Well, as a goalie, it wasn't too bad. We had a couple of occasions, where we just had a hard time getting players. And, I remember going into Vermont one day and we had 6 skaters and 2 goalies.
So did one of the goalies skate out?
I kept asking and they were like, no. And we ended up swapping goalies halfway out because play was always in our end. So,
oh, geez. Yeah.
It was one of those things. Okay, you take the first 40 shots, I'll take the next 40.
There you go.
And it was one of those nights.
Did you get into any goalie fights playing Junior C?
I have, even though Ron Hextall was one of my favorite goalies ever, I have not chased anyone down into the corner and beaten them unmercilessly.
Oh, boo.
I try to instill a kinder, gentler, goaltending style, but I do, I will push people around. I do try to protect my crease a little bit.
Yeah, I have witnessed that a few times, and usually I let you get away with it.
It's all in how you do it. You can't go ahead and just start whacking people in the legs and not expect a penalty.
True.
But you move them around, careful stick placement. You go from side to side. You pull their feet out. We got tied up. I don't know what happened.
Well, one thing that I think I've always heard coming up, since I started officiating, the 2 best referees are goalies and goons. And I always tell people I wasn't a goalie. And
you were not, Ross.
And you know all too well that I was a little bit of a goon.
Well, let me tell, if I can just tell a story here real quick about this one particular game with Ross that sticks out in my mind. It's, I don't remember. I know it was high school, but I don't remember how long ago that was, and I won't try to age you by picking a date.
At least 15 years ago.
Okay. Well, it stuck with me for that long. So we're working the game. And this Grimaldi kid's a little out of control. Been right on the edge the whole game. And he comes up and he just delivers a high hit. I mean, elbow, high hit, head contact. You call it whatever you want to, but you're like, okay, you're going to the box. And this was well before we had the 2 and 10.
Yeah, I was just going to say, luckily it wasn't a 2 and a 10 back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'd have probably missed a lot of games if that had been the case.
100%.
So, goes into the box, serves his 2 minutes like a good boy, steps out of the box, barely has both feet on the ice, player skating by, forearm shiver to the chin. and just totally, I mean, hadn't even been on the ice for about 3 seconds. And whistle back to the box. And and then you'll never guess what happened when he came out of the box from serving that minor. Brenden, you want to guess?
Did he say I'm sorry? I would just say I'm sorry.
No, he stepped out on the ice, tracked somebody else down, and gave them a high shot too.
Yep, right back to the box I went.
Yeah, and I think we might have had enough of you at that point. So, 10-minute misconduct on top of things to send you to the showers.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny. Sometimes you'll see players that are ordinarily, kind of reserved, and they're either having a bad day, they had a fight with mom and dad or with a girlfriend or whatever, and they're not having a good day on the ice.
Yeah, and I did get a fair amount of penalties, but that was probably one of those games where I was just in a bad mood.
It happens. And it happens to officials too. And that's one of the hardest things for referees is trying to mitigate that I am having a really crappy day. And I don't want to share that with all of you. Instead of the misery loves company mentality, how do we isolate ourselves from that and say, okay, what happened off the ice is staying off the ice. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to have fun. And I'm going to give these people that are on the ice the best product that I can. Mm-hmm. Because, it's a game. But from the officiating standpoint, I refer to it as a product. It's a commodity that we provide.
Yes, it is.
We provide an officiating service. So what do you want that to look like? Do you want it to be a joke to people, or do you want it to be a high quality thing that you can hang your hat on and be proud of?
Yep. Like, I know for me, I've always, when I get on the ice, like, that's the only thing that matters in the world. Like, no matter how crappy of a day that I'm having, it's when you get on the ice, it's just, I'm out here. This is where I have to give my attention to, and I can't, bring anything with me.
Yep. And it's hard to do.
Oh, it is. It definitely is. So I was going to say, you got that fancy background behind you with the view from the press box. I know this past season you got a new job.
I did. I became a member of the NHL off-ice crew here in Tampa. And, that's another one of those things that, I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I can walk somebody through the process, and it's actually very interesting. It's very corporate and very formal process to get hired by the NHL as an off-ice official. Mm-hmm. Complete with training sessions, orientation. I'm kind of like, wow, this is kind of strange.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I still have the first check I got. It says NHL on it.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
So what are you? I know there's obviously a lot of people that everyone that listens to this podcast is usually an official. What goes into the off ice stuff, especially working for them? Like, it's one of those things that, like, really, unless you do it, you really don't know what they really do.
It's amazing. There is an operations manual for off-ice officials that's literally probably 2 inches thick.
Oh my God.
And it's what happens behind the scenes from an off-ice officiating perspective. Unless you've done it or been up to the box, visiting, and we don't usually allow visitors, but unless you've been there and seen it firsthand, you have no idea what's involved. It is incredibly detailed. There's usually about 15 people on an off-ice crew per game. There's a scorer, there's a timekeeper, there's 2 penalty box attendants, there's the announcer, but he's not part of our crew. He's part of the actual arena crew.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that are downstairs. And personally, I like hanging out in the penalty box.
Yeah.
You know, that's fun. And then you go upstairs, and there's usually, I think in Tampa, we've got 2 concussion protocol specialists, you know, and they're watching the game, you know, kind of with, you know, a set of binoculars, and then they've got video that they can rewind to look at and go, okay, did that guy get his bell rung? Did we need to pull him out for concussion protocol?
Okay.
And that's their only job. That's the only thing they do.
Yeah.
And then once you get into the box, you've got, you know, the way our box is set up is it's actually 2 suites with a hole in between them. And on the right-hand side facing the ice, they do time on ice, home, and time on ice visitors.
Wow. Now, isn't that going to digital, like as far as with like chips in their jerseys?
I believe it is. I don't know whether we've got another season doing it manually for them to work the bugs out, or how they plan on doing it. But the new pucks even have an RFID chip in them.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And so they can track the puck. They can see, you know, I assume at some point they'll get to the point where they're tracking the chip to see if it went in the area of the net. But all the rinks are mapped out 3D with that technology.
That's wild.
It's pretty cool. I'm kind of a tech geek, so I like seeing stuff like that work its way into the game. But I'm also at that age where I'm kind of a purist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what do we need all that for?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the analytics ruined hockey kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So the guys doing time on ice, really, and my brain is not wired well for doing time on ice. But all they're doing is pretty much watching a bench.
Mm-hmm.
You're either doing the home bench or the away bench, and you sit there and you've got a number pad and you're clicking players on and players off.
Wow.
For the entire game. And during one of my training sessions, I ended up with 9 guys on the ice, and I'm like, yeah, that's not right. So the other side, they also have an event analyst, I think, over on that side, and you know, he's helping out fill in some of the other blanks, helps out the guys doing time on ice to change coming, you know, keep an eye on this. Oh, they're pulling the goalie. Because that's the other thing. If they pull the goalie, you got to pull the goalie off the ice and put another player on the ice. And that's one of the things that often gets missed. So when there's a goal, if the goalie's been pulled but you don't have a player on the ice, the system will mark it as like a shorthanded goal. You don't have a goalie, but you don't have a player, so you only had 5, you needed 6.
Wow.
So some of that stuff you can go, well, actually all of it you can go in and manually correct. Gotcha. At the end of the period or the end of the game. The other side of the box, which is where I tend to be, they've got an official scorer. Now he is writing down everything that happens in the game. Now, not just penalties, not just shots on net, possession, who it was possessed by. He has this crazy shorthand system that he's using.
Mm-hmm. I know if you go on like NHL, like if you do the game cast on NHL, like you can see the actual written out play-by-play of the game. So that's what he's doing. Yeah,
it's crazy, and he's doing it live. He's doing it real time, and you know, there's an event analyst on that side, and what he's doing is he's basically he's calling out the play, but he's not calling it out like Mike Emmerich style.
Yeah.
You know, but he's saying, you know, and there's a certain order in which things have to get entered into the system.
Okay.
So I'll tell you more about the event analyst role in a second, but the other guys are doing shots on net. There's a guy who's doing hits. Now the shots on nets are shots on net, missed shots, blocked shots, and goals. You track all of those things. You're entering into the computer system what kind of shot it was, who took the shot, where the shot was taken from. Now, you know, that's pretty easy. Okay, 86 took a shot from the high hash mark on the right side. Okay. Mm-hmm. but when it's blocked, you actually have to enter in it was blocked by 22 at the hash mark. Shot was taken from the top of the circle by 86. And so there's a lot of information that goes in, and seeing how many blocks there have been during these playoffs, I'm like, wow, those guys have got their hands full.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so the other side's doing hits, giveaways, takeaways, and that sort of thing. And that's what that event analyst does, is he's helping them determine, and keep track of, hit on the boards 22 on 5.
That's, man.
Home 22 on 5 blue. You're also tracking face-offs and things like that. So when you get into the analytics part of it, if you're watching an NHL broadcast and they're showing shots on net and they're showing the shot where all the shots on net were taken from, those are coming from upstairs. Those are coming from the box. So, yeah, we like to make sure we get them right.
I definitely didn't realize how intense it was. That's just
it's mind-boggling. And that was one of the things I was wondering about with the bubble. I'm like, okay, how are they going to do this with these guys, with 3 games a day in some facilities?
Multiple crews, I would assume.
You have to, because it's so intense that my brain is fried when I'm leaving there. Yeah. So it's crazy how much goes into it behind the scenes.
Well, that's a pretty awesome gig you got there, and a pretty cool insight for those of us that have never heard what all that job entails.
Yeah, and actually, I started looking at it as at some point down the road, I wanted to do this, and it just, it was one of those things that the opportunity opened itself this year, and my boss for my real work has this. He has a graph that he shows on opportunity and preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
And, if your opportunity is high, but your preparedness is low, your chance for success is low, and vice versa, and I looked at it, and as the opportunity opened itself this year, I'm like, well, I think this might be the time to do this.
Heck yeah.
Eventually, I'm not going to be able to skate, college and juniors forever.
Mm-hmm.
At some point I'm going to go, all right, I'm tired of chasing these guys who are 3 times my age around the ice.
Yeah. Makes sense. Shoot.
Now don't get excited if you're listening, people, because you still got me for another couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of those levels, obviously we got all the college teams down here switched to CHF, and then USPHL. I think the team here has got their first game September 18th. I think I saw on the schedule.
Okay.
So everything's getting going here shortly, or at least some of the stuff is. And I know high school's delayed a little bit, and some of the youth hockey, but hockey will come back, like you said.
Yeah, I've got a 3 set today and a two tomorrow. A couple of U16 games, and hopefully try and get my legs back under me. I've been playing goalie, over the summer, and once they opened the rink back up, but that's not quite the same stride as out there trying to
it's
get up and down
definitely not.
the ice. So this will be a good shakedown cruise for how I'm going to feel next weekend.
There you go. Well, I think with that, Brenden, do you have any last questions for Chris?
No, I think that sums everything up.
Awesome. Well, Chris, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for your insight about, what it's like to be a state supervisor and an off-ice official with the National Hockey League. And with that, everybody, thank you for listening. From our interview with Chris, I hope you enjoyed it. There was a lot of stuff in there with the NHL, the off-ice officiating stuff that kind of blew my mind. What about you, Brenden?
Yeah, I think the off-ice stuff for the NHL is really cool. I mean, we have a few people in Dallas that do that here, but it's always just cool to listen. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're getting an NHL paycheck, which I think is the coolest part about it.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, and just the amount of stuff that goes into it is absolutely ridiculous. between time on ice, shots on goal, scorekeeper, penalties, or penalty timekeeper, and all the rest of the concussion spotters and this and that. Like it's absolutely wild. So it's a pretty cool deal. I guess really now let's wrap it up by talking about what are our predictions for the Western Conference Finals. What do you think?
Vegas has to come out of this series against the Stars. I think it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Vegas is the better team. The Stars have played very well. They've gotten a lot of depth scoring.
I would say they've overachieved.
Yeah, the only question is goaltending. I think we saw that last night with Khudobin, who got yanked after the second period. Now, 2 out of the 3 goals, definitely not his fault. The Stars played horrendously.
Well, you got Khudobin and you got Ben Bishop. And Bish with the Lightning was kind of like always when we needed him, he would always get hurt. So that's why they got rid of him and sent him out to Dallas.
I mean, that's how it's been this playoffs because I think he's been in 2 games and both of them he's lost. One of them he gave up 5 goals in the first period.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's still unfit to play. Whatever that means, take that with a grain of salt, in my opinion. And I think Vegas is just the better team. They have 2 solid goaltenders in Fleury and Robin Lehner. Lehner's playing really good hockey right now, which is awesome to see. I'm surprised that Fleury hasn't started more.
Hey, you know what? There's something going on there. And that's, I think, all I want to leave the Fleury situation at. There's something going on behind the scenes. Something happened.
Yeah, and the only thing I got to say with that is if Fleury, for some reason, is not a golden knight, in the next year, I think the fans are going to actually finally have something to be sad about and complain about because he's still a world-class Hall of Fame goaltender.
Oh, yeah, he's first ballot.
Yeah,
for sure.
Even at whatever age, I think he's late 30s now.
Yeah, he's. I think he was an 02 or an 03 draft. I know he's one of the few guys in the NHL playing that's older than I am. So there aren't many older than me these days. Which is, I just turned 34. It's like holy shit, when that happened.
Yeah, but Vegas, I think, definitely comes out of that series.
So then out east, obviously, we got my Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
This is going 5 or 6.
Easy.
Maybe 6. The Lightning are just they have the depth, they have the scoring, they have the defense this year for the first time in a long time, and obviously goaltending is not an issue. This team's just on a mission, and I love you all you Islander fans out there. It's just I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't disagree.
Like
Brady
the
Islanders,
Andre Palat,
yeah,
like, those guys are they're all on fire.
I mean, speaking of Braden Point, I have some interesting stats pulled up here from his last 7 games. And I believe this was after game 1 of the conference finals. He had 4 goals, 12 assists, 8 of them being primary. He had 11 5-on-5 points, 33 shot attempts, 22 of them on goal. And with him on the ice at 5 versus 5, the Lightning are outscoring a team 12-2.
Well, there you go.
So the only way the Islanders have a single shot at making this a 6-7 game series and even potentially squeaking out a win is if they somehow shut down Braden Point and shut down the whole Tampa Bay Lightning offense, which if there's one team to do it, it's the Islanders.
Oh, I agree. But
after watching game 1, yikes.
They don't have the goaltending. They have Thomas Grace and Varlamov. Come on.
Both are good goaltenders. I mean,
yeah.
I as a Flames fan, I wouldn't mind either of them on my team.
Mm-hmm.
But going up against Tampa, they got a tough hill to climb. And Tampa's just been on fire from round 1 till now. They have just been on fire.
Yes, they have. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to send you this. I just saw this. It's a trade tree. Have you ever seen the trade tree breakdowns on YouTube?
Yeah, they're awesome.
So this guy put together it. He said it took him over 6 hours to do. He put together the trade tree from the Oilers-Kings trade from 1989 when Gretzky got sent to the Oilers.
Holy smoke! Or to the Kings?
Or to the Kings, yeah. And he tracked it all the way through till the Lightning acquired Teddy Purcell, which was only a few years ago.
Holy smokes.
And then on the Oilers side, it was all the way till the Lightning got a third-round pick that turned into Dmitry Afanasenkov.
That's insane.
The Tampa Bay Lightning are connected to a trade that happened 4 years before they even played their first game.
Whoever does that research, blows my mind because, first off, to sit there and track all of this stuff is insane.
I'm trying to see if there's any names like down the okay, Yari Curry's in here. I'm just trying to see if there's any like big name. Peter Klima to the Lightning, Adam Graves to the Red Wings. Like it's Alexander Solovanov to the Lightning. Like it's nuts. I'm gonna link it to you.
Yeah, I mean those trade trees. I've seen a few of them, and
the videos are really cool on YouTube that the guy does.
I mean, I lose myself about halfway through them because it's trees like this that you are just like, how does that have absolutely any connection at all? But yet it still does.
Yep, it just flows. It's wild. But anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. So.
One last thing I want to talk about is the rise of Thatcher Demko for Vancouver in games 5 and 6 for Vancouver in the Vegas series.
Or really 5, 6, and 7. He played really well.
Yeah, I think.
So we'll see. He might be their goaltender of the future.
I was going to say, I think he definitely will be their goaltender of the future. I think these 3 games have sped that process up potentially. I mean, Jacob Markstrom's still a great goaltender.
Yeah.
But Vancouver's going for youth. You can sell Markstrom maybe a little bit high currently.
Yeah, maybe.
But, I mean, I think he stopped. I think it was something like 97 shots and let in 1 goal.
Insane.
And so a big hats off to him. Vancouver would not have forced even a game 6 without him in net. But I just thought that was a cool little tidbit.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's pretty impressive, to be honest. Stepping into the playoffs and just, taking over like that.
Yeah.
One thing, obviously, got to mention our Team Stripes Academy. If you want to learn from one of the greatest referees to ever lace them up, Mr. Don Koharski, Team Stripes Academy is where it's at. So definitely check that out if you're interested.
And make sure to follow us on all of our social medias, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We even have a Discord. Go Team Stripes is the name you would Google or put into the search bar.
Yep.
Give us a follow. Interact with us. I'm all over Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
And then we have the Ice Hockey Referee Club.
Mm-hmm. So,
and then we got something else coming up that I haven't told you about yet, but I will talk to you after we're done with the podcast.
Ooh, I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff from the weekend. So
awesome. I think that about wraps it up for episode 67 of the Team Stripes podcast. We will be back at our scheduled Tuesday time next week. Sorry that this episode I think it's going to be 2 days late.
No big deal. Labor Day weekend. Yeah. You know how it goes.
We were all exhausted. So thank you guys and have a great rest of your week.
Enjoy, fellas. Thanks for listening.